Welcome everyone to another edition of Boston Real Estate Town Hall. Today I am pleased to have a special guest, Lenny Licari with Be Sure Home Inspection. Welcome, Lenny.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, Lenny and I have we've probably done over 100 home inspections between you and Mike and in the Boston area, and it's always been a privilege to be able to work with you. Lenny, just so if people don't know him, he's one of the most respected home inspectors in the Boston area. Everyone knows who Lenny is. So, it's a good person to turn to if you're looking to get a home inspection on a new purchase. And Lenny, if you want to just go into a little bit about yourself and how you got into the industry and started your company, Be Sure.
Sure. Well, I've been doing this. This is my 30th year that I've been performing home inspections.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. It's a blink of an eye, and all of a sudden it's 30 years. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
I've actually, last year we added them up. I'm up to 21,000 home inspections.
Oh my God.
And my license number is 15 in the state of Massachusetts. A lot of people think that's cool to be 15. I'm like, no, that makes me feel old. I don't want to be 15.
Yeah.
I want to be 830 or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I've been doing this a long time. I have a construction background. I've been a licensed builder for many, many years. Built many homes. My father owned a plastering company. I'm technically a fourth generation plasterer. So that's my background. And then got into building with my father, my brother, my uncles. I was on construction sites when I was probably 6 years old. They had me.
Oh, wow.
They had me up there roofing, putting shingles on roofs when I was 7 or 8.
Yeah.
It was fun, and I've been in it. I love it. Every time I think I've seen just about everything out there, I'll pull up to a house and there'll be like a farmhouse, and the seller will have like the belt for the snow blower. He takes it off, he puts it on the dryer, then he puts it on the furnace, and then we have to try to figure it all out.
You must. I mean, I was just thinking, about home inspectors in New England. They must have like a lot tougher than the rest of the country because of how historic it is around here and how old the houses are.
That's right. I mean, we do homes that are brand new, and everyone thinks, why do I need an inspection on something new?
Mm-hmm.
You especially need an inspection on something new, especially if it's been a flip. And if the person who's flipping it, over the last like 4 or 5 years, there's all these shows on different channels.
Mm-hmm.
I won't mention what they are. And, it looks like you can renovate a kitchen in, a half hour. And so people buy homes, they try flipping them. There's a lot of really good contractors out there that do a lot of good work. But someone who's flipping it, and especially if they're not that experienced, those are the problems that look beautiful. They'll have beautiful granite countertops in. The cabinets be great. It'll look pretty as a picture. It's staged beautifully, but the plumbing is terrible. The electrical's terrible.
Yeah.
It's not vented right. So those are the homes you really want to, pay attention to. The ones that have been flipped, and the person who's flipping it is really not that experienced.
Yeah. No, and you can kind of tell. I find like the detail to the trim work usually is like a big giveaway, how much attention they gave to that, especially in like, 3-family condo conversions. I feel like, when the floor is up here and the trim starts here and slowly at an angle, or, there's telltale signs of kind of a lousy contractor.
I had one like that, and it was actually in South Boston. It was a multi-million-dollar home, and the buyer stopped me after about 20 minutes because the detail finished work was so terrible. We spent 20 minutes. I never left the kitchen. There was so many problems in the kitchen, just in the kitchen. They said, "Okay, can we stop the inspection, please?"
Yeah.
It was like it just was. But that's that's the exception. Not the rule. Usually, if a home looks good, like 80% of the time, it's going to be a nice home. Mm-hmm. If it looks like it's well maintained, for the most part, it's going to be a well maintained home. It's that 10, 15, maybe 20% that looks good, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. That's where we really earn our keep, those type of homes.
Yeah. Is there like a certain age of a home that you look at and say like, oh, there's going to be certain factors we're going to look at here that might stand out more than others, like maybe with electrical or, foundations or structural stuff, where you're like, you're a little bit higher alert, than others or certain.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say homes built in the 20s and 30s is probably closer to the turn of the century. Those are probably the best homes, believe it or not.
Okay.
Usually structurally, they're usually great. The type of lumber that they used, I mean, it's 100-year-old lumber in the home, and it probably came from a 100-year-old tree. It's just so much stronger, so much better, and you get the test of time. And usually the plasterers back then were good, the plumbers, the electricians back then, the masons. I mean, I see fireplaces that are 150 years old that are in great condition. So, but the big thing with those type of homes is knob and tube wiring, which if it's installed properly, it's a very safe type of wiring. But over the years, you can't insulate over it. There's certain things you can't do that a lot of people have done, which makes it dangerous. So, any house built in the turn of the century up until like the mid 30s, early 40s, we like to look for knob and tube wiring. If the home was built in the 60s or 70s, there's aluminum wiring. That's a big deal, a big no-no we like to look out for. So usually, the era when the house was built, that's why a lot of home inspectors will ask, how old's the home? Because if you say 30s, 40s, 70s, 90s, there's always like every 10 years there's something else where there's a problem that we like to look for.
Yeah. And what is it, 1978, like they stopped using lead. That was a big one.
That
right?
was lead paint. And every once in a while, it's funny, a house built in like 1979 or 1980, someone will do a lead paint test and it still could come back high. And it's like, how could that possibly be?
Yeah. They had some extra. They had some extra.
I mean, lead paint, let's face it, is a great paint as far as paint goes.
Yeah.
Asbestos siding, asbestos insulation, the best insulation. But for obvious reasons, you can't have it. But, crazy things like that go on that we really want to check for. And so that's what I do, basically. I look for the best way I like to explain what a home inspection is. Remember years ago, there was that magazine out there called Highlights for Kids. And it was like a magazine for kids. And when I was a little kid in the 80s, well, really 70s, actually, now that I think about it, late 60s, but that's as far as I'll go. I used to go to the dentist, and my mom would say, all right, Lenny, just sit in the corner, go read that Highlights magazine. And I used to read that magazine, and there was a section in there called What's Wrong with This Picture? You had to find like the 12 things wrong with the picture.
Yeah.
So I was a 7-year-old. I wouldn't find 12 things wrong. I'd find like 34 things wrong with that picture. So I guess I was born to be a home inspector.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
That's
the ones there's two pictures, and one's is it one where the two pictures, one's different than the other one, or is it just one picture with there's something wrong with it?
One picture with like the upside down rake in the tree or something like that you had to find,
Yeah.
like one of those things. And I was the kid that would find a lot more things wrong in the picture than was what was supposed to be there. So again, I was born for that reason. I was born to be a home inspector, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what I do all day long. What's wrong with this picture? And
Yeah,
we write what we see, right? And then, we document it. And for the most part, buyers are extremely happy with what we do.
Yeah. So right now, obviously, you're going through some different changes with COVID. I'm sure you had to adapt a little bit. Are you business as usual, or how have you changed?
The last couple of weeks, we've been really busy. Things are really starting to pick up. But, obviously, for the last 2 months, things were down. A couple of months ago, when everything started, we had to make a decision. Are we going to work? At that point, we weren't deemed essential, or we were not deemed, non-essential. So we had to make a decision what we wanted to do. The second that the governor said that we, as in the real estate industry, are deemed essential, I did an inspection. It was a vacant home with just myself and the buyer. We were 10, 15 feet away the entire time. Did the inspection. Everything went great. On the way home, I stopped off at the drugstore to pick up a prescription, and there had to be 35 people in the drugstore. No gloves, no hats, no booties. Everyone banging into everyone. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel safer performing an inspection than I do going to the store. So that's when we decided, as long as we can be as careful as possible, we sterilize all our tools before every job, after every job, booties, gloves, face masks. We'll FaceTime with buyers if they don't want to be there. We'll have like a Zoom meeting or something later on that night. Whatever we can do to protect the seller and anyone who's there. As long as we feel like we're safe, we're going to continue to work.
Oh, great. That's awesome. That's great you're able to adapt. And I think one of the things that makes you guys stand apart versus some other companies is your home inspection. It's one of those good for life things where anyone can call you at any time. And I always thought that was like the coolest thing when you first told me that when we were on a home inspection like 10 years ago or something. But people do that, right? They call you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What we do is when we perform an inspection, as long as the buyer's on the home, they can call me for advice. If they get estimates from plumbers, carpenters, electricians, contractors, they can send me over their invoice, their estimates. I will go over with them and give them my opinion, what I think is if the price is too high, too low, what type of materials they're supposed to be using on our deck, on the roof, what's the proper way to ventilate a roof. Completely free as long as the buyer's on the home.
Yeah.
Free consultation.
Everyone
loves it. We probably spend, now we're averaging 3 to 4 past clients a week I'll talk to and go over things just to help them out. And it's a win-win. I mean, it comes back to us through referrals. It's great for buyers. It's great for us. And it's great for contractors who are giving a nice fair price, because I'm going to say that's in the ballpark. That's a fair price.
Right. And, other things is like a lot, and I was going to get to this point, but a lot of times you're pointing out something that might not fail for a few years. So,
Right.
They might be calling like, hey, the boiler's gone, Lenny, like you said it would be. What am I going to do here? So for real estate agents, one of the toughest part of the transaction is, and it involves home inspections, because a lot of times, the unknowns, unforeseen things are coming up. And we have to adapt and be able to take your information and review it with the seller and buyer. And I think probably the toughest thing for us is age of systems, where, it's a boiler or a oil boiler or gas boiler, and it's 20 years old, but, it has a use expected life. And we don't know who's responsible for it. And the seller always says that, this thing's been working great, never had any issues, and we've maintained it every year. And the buyer's just waiting for it to, fail as soon as they buy it. So can you speak candidly to like these, what manufacturers might say, what you're licensed to, tell buyers, or what you're supposed to tell them, and, what actually is the case?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. No problem at all. Well, it's funny that you say, like, the buyer says if a 20-year-old system, it's ready to go, it's got to be replaced. And the seller says, no, it's working fine. Because, I've been doing this long enough that I've been in the home sometimes three times in a row, 3 different buyers.
Yeah.
And it could have been, 20 years old 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Now it's 30 years old. And the person that's buying it now says, oh, this has to go. And now the seller's saying, no, it works fine. And I'm saying to myself, you wanted to argue 10 years ago that this had to be replaced.
Yeah.
Now that you're a seller, you're saying it's fine. And then another 10 years go by.
Yeah.
So, it's funny which side you're on, the buyer or seller. But for the most part, the majority of heating systems, whether they're furnaces or whether they're boilers, there's going to be tags on there, labels on there. Most home inspectors will be able to tell you the date of the system. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we cannot anticipate. I've seen 2-year-old boilers leak, and I've seen 50-year-old boilers. They're called snowmen. They have like the big asbestos all over the heating system. You know, a house built in the 20s. That's, you know, close to 100 years old. Or it's actually would be 100 years old now.
Like the one at Home Alone, the one that's eating the
Yeah.
kid in Home Alone. Yeah.
That's the one. Now that could last another 30 years, right? So, you know, as home inspectors, what we would say is like, look, this is reaching the end of its normal life expectancy. It could last a day, it could last 20 more years. I mean, but a lot of it has to do with maintenance. If it looks like it's been well maintained, if there's a lot of service tags on the boiler or the furnace, if there's not a lot of oil stains around oil tanks, if there's not rusting corrosion on flue pipes, we have our red flags that we can tell if the system's been well serviced. It's nice when we show up and you can see the service tag, and every year for the last 15 years it's been serviced.
Right.
That's a great sign. Generally, I'm going to probably say it's going to last a little longer than some system I show up to and is, you know, crutches up against it, the ping pong table's leaning up against it, no service tags, is leaking all over the place. Now that might last another 10 years too, but probably not, because it has not been maintained and serviced. I mean, like anything else, we have to be maintained, serviced. Our cars need to be maintained. Heating systems especially, and water heaters too, need to be maintained.
Yeah. I feel like also, you know, some of the like systems, you know, some of the older ones probably don't have as many bells and whistles too to really go wrong. Like some of the newer, you know, like I've heard of some of the Navien water heaters failing, and the on-demand systems. They're just such high tech, and there's probably some problems with that too, where, you know, it's too much.
Yeah, sometimes the older, simpler ones, they're going to work really well. It's funny, the new systems, those on-demand systems that, especially for hot water, what a lot of people don't realize is they have to be maintained and serviced yearly. Some manufacturers recommend twice a year.
Oh, wow.
Where your average, you know, 80-gallon, 50-gallon gas water heater, most people don't do anything to them, which you know, but the on-demand ones, the ones that they've had over the last, say, 6-7 years, they really need to be serviced yearly, if not twice a year. And if you do that, they're going to last a long time. It's a great way of heating hot water for kitchens and bathrooms.
Yeah.
But they do have to be maintained, service more than your traditional water heater.
Yeah, they're so streamlined. They save so much, you know, closet space too. So,
they're great.
Nice. Excuse me. So in terms of stories, I'm sure you got some crazy stories. We were talking before we came on about, you said something about a electrical panel in a shower that you saw. Tell me about that.
Well, I have an Instagram. There's a couple of home inspectors that we just put pictures on Instagram. Mine is just Lenny Licari, if you want to see some absolutely ridiculous, crazy pictures. And once in a while, someone will say, okay, Lenny, where'd you get these pictures? You get them online somewhere. There's no way you took this picture. There's no way somebody could possibly put a stairway 3 feet away from a doorway and just leave it like that. So if you open the back slider, you have to hop onto the stairway 2 feet away. Yeah. I'm like, no, that's how it was built, and it's been like that for 20 years. I'm not making these things up. But there was a house in, well, south of Boston. I don't want to really say the town, what part of the city, but it was a new renovation, believe it or not. And I was told that they pulled permits for this work. And I'm like, okay, beautiful, that's great. We went downstairs. There was 2 bathrooms, one upstairs, one downstairs. We started down in the basement. I opened the bathroom door, and I quickly closed it. And I said to myself, I just did not see that. I know I'm like seeing things because there's no way that possibly could be. Yeah. I opened the door back again, and the main electrical panel for that unit is in the shower, on the shower wall. I mean, and it's funny because not only was it on the shower wall, but someone did a great job tiling it with this beautiful bullnose Italian marble tile around the panel. So they painstakingly did a great job tiling.
Oh, so this wasn't just you know, let's leave the shower where it is and like let's renovate.
Let's not move the panels. Right. So I think I said something like on the Instagram for the comment. I think I said something like, rinse, shower, rinse, repeat, die.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like something you can't believe.
Yeah.
I got a lot of good comments on that one. And again, there's a lot of people like, okay, you made that up. There's no way that could be true. If you go on there, you're going to see 20, 30 pitches, 200 pitches where there's just, it's just, I can't make these things up.
Right.
So it's pretty funny, which is, it's funny to talk about them, but it's serious because people are going to get hurt if they were to use the systems the way they were.
Yeah.
Which is not funny. So, but that's why we put it in there, just to let people know that, it's so important to have a home inspection. I know people have been waiving them over the years, and I totally understand why. But you really want to be careful because something that looks good may not be.
Yeah. No, I mean, so many times you've helped my buyers out and put them in a good position either to back away from the deal or correct things, or just be aware of the house and how to use it too, for not just problems, but a lot of times you're working with first-time home buyers that have no idea what to do, how to turn on the irrigation system, or how to shut off the water if there's an emergency. So it's just small things. I think those things, and I love going to them because I learned so much more about my house, and I feel like I'm becoming more of an advanced person, like just in the school of life. I've gotten a little bit better just from following.
No, you have. You asked a great question. You know the difference between looking at a copper line coming into the home and a galvanized. I know you do because you've told me that. You're like, look, Lenny, that's an old Galvy pipe coming in. So you've come a long way. You're really good.
Yeah.
So, but you're right about that, about education. Half of a home inspection is not finding out problems, defects. It's an education on the home. So as a buyer, what I like to do is, as you know me, I do a lot of yakking and talking there in the inspection. Most buyers are sick of me after like 2 hours. They don't want to hear my voice anymore. I just talk so much.
Yeah.
But I want to open up and I want to let them know, where's the main water supply? How do I change filters? I can't tell you how many times, like if the seller is home and I'm showing the buyers that they have filters on their furnace. And the sellers will be, I have filters? I never knew that. Like, oh, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
And, the filters are like caked in and it's never hot and it's never cold. And it's because the filters are so clogged.
Yeah.
But, knowing where your main water is, how to shut it off, how to change filters, little things like diverting downspouts away from homes could be the difference between water in your basement and not water in your basement. Mm-hmm. Or spending $12 for some downspouts and some backsplashes on the outside, maybe improving on the grading a little bit, or spending tens of thousands of dollars on a perimeter drain system. Sometimes you might luck out. You could spend a little bit of money and do something really well for your basement.
Yeah. Well, I feel like basements are your favorite part of the house. So the for when you're looking at like big pitfalls with houses, are structural components the main thing that you're looking at, or is it like termites, mold, electrical? Like what would be the order of operations for the worst problems to have?
Believe it or not, it's probably, you can tell a lot about the home from the outside, the grading. If I had to pick one thing, like, anyone listening tonight, if you're all looking at homes, the number one thing you want to check is the grading on the home. In other words, all the water should be diverted away from the foundation. Okay. You don't want any big hills going towards one side of the foundation. If you have positive slope and the grading is good all the way around the home, chances are the foundation is going to be straight. You're not going to get a lot of mold. You're not going to get mildew. There's other reasons for that, but the flooring is probably going to be straight in the home. If you have grading problems, that just starts all sorts of problems as far as wood-boring insects, as far as pressure on the sides of foundations, mold, mildew, water coming in. So the number one thing we like to look for is the grading. And then structurally, with poured concrete foundations, the one guarantee you have is concrete cracks. It's an absolute guarantee. So if you see 4 or 5 cracks on a poured concrete foundation that's 30 years old, 20 years old, that's brand new. That's not going to bother me. But it matters where the cracks are. You know, if it's a horizontal crack, generally that's going to be a red flag because there's going to be a pressure issue going on the side of that foundation, usually for water. So that's a red flag. But
everything's water. Everything is water. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, especially around here. We're so lucky to be living in New England. We don't get mudslides. Generally, we don't get earthquakes. We don't get major floods. We don't get everything like, you know, California gets and everywhere else in the world gets. We're so fortunate to be here. But we do get water. We get lots of storms. We get lots of snow. We have, I think over the last 6 years, we've had 300-year storms. Wow. So that's what we got to deal with water. As long as we deal with the water, your hustle's going to be good. Your hustle's going to last a long time.
Yeah. I mean, besides, I remember you telling me a while ago that, you know, a skylight's just a hole in your roof and eventually the water is going to figure out how to get through it.
Yeah, it's sort of like a little joke when I see a first-time home buyer and I'm like, you know what that is up there? They go, a skylight? I go, no, it's a hole in the roof that's going to leak. You know, they all leak at one point in time. It's usually not a big deal to fix.
Yeah.
There are companies out there that can install skylights that is guaranteed they will not leak, and they don't leak. But for the most part, most skylights are installed not by absolute professionals who are certified. They're installed by, like, you know, myself when I was a kid with my uncle that didn't know a skylight from a sub pump.
Yeah. No,
and we all did it. And
my dad's
for the most part, they worked.
My dad's a roofer, and I used to help him, and I didn't know what to do the entire time. He would have me shoveling snow, going and pushing down the roof without a harness on. Because that's all we do in the winter to help him. So, and I mean, I installed so many like little things that if the homeowner knew that I was doing it, oh my God.
No, that's funny. I mean, it's like, especially, what was it, like 6-7 years ago now when we had the 8 feet of snow in New England. You know, where everyone was chipping ice out, and everyone was up on ladders, and everyone had blow torches, and people were taking, you know, like rock salt, putting it inside pantyhose, and then throwing it up on the roof.
Oh my God!
And it would like actually melt the ice, which actually did work, by the way. I was on one house. I pulled up. There had to be, I'm not exaggerating, 65 pairs of pantyhose with rock salt in them, dripping over the edge of the roof.
Yeah.
It looked like something from Animal House, but you know what? It worked.
Yeah. I like the little coils they put on, the little coils at the bottom of the roof. They seem to do well.
Yeah. That's going to help most of the time. But with 8 feet of snow, there's really nothing that's going to help.
Yeah.
By the way, with ice dams, it's a question I get all the time. It's really has nothing to do with gutters. It had gutters being dirty and the ice buildup. It all has to do with not having enough insulation in the attic. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have enough insulation, the heat from the bedrooms are going to get through the insulation, through above the ceiling on the top floor. It's going to get up into the attic, melt the underneath sheeting of the roof, and that's how you get ice dams. So your attic should be the same temperature as the outside in the wintertime, believe it or not. Okay. So if it's 8 degrees outside, your attic should be very, very cold. You do not want your attic to be warm at all. Mm-hmm. So more insulation equals less ice dams.
Gotcha.
That's simple.
Gotcha.
That's my tip for the day.
Well, we're running out of time here, but thank you, Lenny, for coming on. If you have anything else to say, please feel free. But if you guys are looking for a great home inspector, Lenny's usually the first person I like to call. He services Boston, around 95 basically. Is that kind of the area?
Yeah, we'll go down as far as like Plymouth. A lot of nice homes in Plymouth that we like to do. We'll go up to like Stoneham, a lot of nice homes in like the Stoneham area, and then we'll go up north as far as say Newburyport. Mm-hmm. A lot of nice homes up in Newburyport and West Newbury. A lot of nice homes up there too.
Yeah.
I'm in the North Shore, but most of our work is in the Boston area. But we go where the work is. But thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I'm sure this is going to be one of everyone's favorite episodes. And also for everyone that works with, be sure Lenny's son Mike also works for the company, so that must be a privilege to have him on every with you.
Yeah, we see each other like at least 3 times a week, because any home that's over, say, 3,000 square feet, we'll have 2 inspectors there.
Yeah.
We do 10,000 square foot homes. We just did one. It was about 16,000 square feet. We actually had 3 inspectors on that one.
Oh.
So it took about 5 hours. And that house had 307 windows in it. And I know, because I opened up every window.
Oh.
It was quite the home.
What was it? It was a presidential home. Where was this? You can't tell.
It was a suburb just south of Boston. I mean, I'm talking indoor pools, wow. Tennis courts. The guest house was gorgeous. Guest house would have been like anyone's favorite home in the world.
Yeah.
That was just the guest house, No big deal.
I'm sure there was no problems with it though.
That for a house that size, there were a few things we found.
Yeah.
They had to replace some heating systems in there, but for the most part, again, it was well maintained. It looked beautiful, and it was beautiful. So that's good.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and I hope everyone out there has stay safe, everyone. We'll all get through this, and again, Ethan, thank you very much. This was a blast. Thanks again.
All right. Yep. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.